Okay. Well, I'm going to start with my journey. Okay. So, my journey started when I was about 7 years old. There's an old neighborhood lady, everybody called her Grandma Neal. She was just everybody's Grandma Neal. And she took me to the Gospel Hall. When I was at the Gospel Hall, I stood alone and I looked at the beam and I sang a solo. Now, I can carry a tune in a bucket. I'm not choir material, but I'm going to sing you my song. A cappella. So, Margot, could you lock the door? Nobody can leave.
I'll stand guard.
Okay, so I'm going to sing you my song, and please don't laugh because you'll make me very nervous if you start to laugh, okay? Jesus wants me for a sunbeam to shine for him each day. In every way try to please him, at home, at school and play. A sunbeam, Jesus wants me for a sunbeam, a sunbeam, a sunbeam. I'll be a sunbeam for him. I'll be a sunbeam for Jesus. I can if I'll but try. Serving him moment by moment, then live with him on high. A sunbeam, Jesus wants me for a sunbeam, a sunbeam, a sunbeam. I'll be a sunbeam for him. That was the start of my journey when I was 7. So I would like to see if I could do this without glasses now. The cataract surgery was good, but it wasn't that good. I am truly humbled to stand here before the real pillars of our church, Bev, Nair, Olive, Angela. I am not an example. I'd hate for anybody to look at me thinking, oh, she knows, because I really don't. I am not a pillar. I'm just a work in progress, and I am a real work in progress. A long time ago, when I had finished with the Gospel Hall, I was, like I say, I was just little. I was just a kid. I didn't really understand about church. I certainly had no relationship with Jesus. It's just what you did on a Sunday. Your mother said, go to Sunday school, and you went to Sunday school, and that just kind of went. You just kind of went, and you paid your quarter, what have you, and then that was about the end of the Sunday school. That was about the end of my relationship with church or with Jesus, because I didn't really know who that was. When I was 15, I graduated high school, and I went to college and met the person who was going to be a big part in my life. I met Jim. I was 15, and my parents had already planned to immigrate to come to America, and I had no desire at all to come to America. That was before cell phones and Skype and all of that other texting and stuff, so that was not for me. But I was 16, and my parents made me come. They said, you have to come for a year, and if you don't settle after the year, then with our blessing, you can go back to Scotland. So I came for a year. I stayed here for a year all but one day, and then I went back to Scotland, and I lived with Jim's family for 3 years. And they opened their home. I felt like I was their daughter. It wasn't a case of like I was Jim's girlfriend. I felt like I was absolute family. So I lived there for 3 years, and then Jim and I get married, and we decided to immigrate back to America, back straight to Burbank. My parents were very uneasy about this because we lived in a little tiny small mining village, and Jim had never, beautiful downtown Burbank was just something, it's just something you heard about. The fact that we would come here and live and make a home. And my parents really felt that I had twisted Jim's arm into coming to the States, and it probably was not a good idea, and it probably wouldn't last. Well, they were right. It didn't last. The marriage didn't last, but it lasted for 30 years, and then he died. So that was a big deal. Jim and I had one child, Jamie, who was my absolute pride and joy, and I'll talk of Jim and Jamie later. I first heard about Village Church. This might be a name that probably Bev and Charlotte will remember. I came to Village Church at the invitation of Sandy and Dwayne Landers. Sandy and Dwayne Landers were my next door neighbours, and she used to come to this weird place, and I choose to call it Dorcas. And I used to think, if I ever get rich, I'm going to go to Dorcas too. Well, I'm not rich, but they don't have Dorcas anymore, so there you go. But anyway, Sandy and Dwayne moved away to Goleta in Santa Barbara County, and I decided one day I'm going to go to Village Church. So I did. I came to Village Church, and that was a very, very, very exciting time for me. Jesus became real to me about a year later in 1975. I was in the prayer room with Bev and Dick Weimer, and I felt like I felt like a bottle of champagne. I had just been shaken, and the cork popped, and just all of this stuff just came out. It was absolutely incredible. So I felt my goal in life at that time was to make sure that Jim knew all about Jesus. So I convinced Jim that if he continued to watch football and drink beer on a Sunday, he was going straight to hell. He was going straight to hell. And I would come home from church and I'd turn on the vacuum cleaner, because at that time the static would go across the TV. So I would do that, and then he would get mad, and then I'd say, okay, see, you're mad because the devil's got you, and you're going to do this, and you're going to do that, and you're going to burn in hell. And so this went on for some time, until one day Jim decided he was going to tell me how it was going to be. And in his home, he would drink beer, and he would watch football, and he would go to hell if that's where he was going to go. But I was not going to be the one to tell him what he could or could not do in his house, in our house. But I still had my faith, and I still had my family. My faith was pretty bruised that day. I couldn't believe that Jim had been, he usually did the things that we had decided together. He never really laid down the law, but he did that day. Anyway, Jim became ill. He had had a bad back accident at work, and Randy Strickland came by one day, and he saw both cars were home. He knew there was a problem. And Randy and I were able to take Jim to St. Joseph's Hospital, where Jim had been admitted, they admitted him. And he had a very, very major back surgery, which the doctors said there was so much damage done. He'd been given the incorrect medication for about 6 months, and it atrophied the muscles in his spine. So they said he probably wouldn't be able to walk. But that night he called Dick Weimer and said, I need you to come. I need you to pray with me the night before the surgery. It was a Wednesday night. He said, I don't want you to tell Pat I'm coming. I want you just to come by yourself. So Dick went to church, and he and Jim prayed, and Dick led Jim to Jesus. But I knew that it wasn't real. But I still had my faith. Well, Jim would say things like, if you want to go to that Holy Roller church over there, you go right ahead, but you'll never get me in that Holy Roller church. Jim was the Winston Tire Store manager over here in Victory, and at that time the church had the old blue van. Jim always took care of the church's blue van and took care of some people at the church, but don't preach to him and don't mention that Holy Roller church, because it wasn't going to happen. Anyway, after a while, Jim decided if he could walk, if he was able to walk, that maybe he would come and just check out this church. He might just come and check it out. Well, Dick became a real regular, quiet visitor, and he would come and encourage us both, because at that time my faith was a little bit shaken. It was still there. I still had my family, and I still had my faith, but it was quavering. Anyway, Jim came, and he did come to Village Church, and his faith did get a little bit stronger, and he decided that he wanted to know more about all the years he'd wasted. He wanted to know more about Jesus. He still watched football, and he did still have an occasional beer, but they get less and less and less. Anyway, Jim ended up being the Sunday school president in our Sunday school class, and he was chairman of the deacon board. And he prayed with Pastor Wade, before Pastor Wade, Dave McCarran. And he would pray for the Holy Spirit to be real to someone the way the Holy Spirit had become real to Jim. God was so good. God was so good. I had my family and I had my faith. So for 12 years, I think Jim and I were probably the happiest we'd ever been, until the fateful night, November 19th, 1998, when 2 hours after a flu shot, we got the call. I was going to bed, and Jim was laying in bed, and I kept thinking, get up, get ready for bed. And Jim was dead. He had had a flu shot at 6 o'clock. He was dead. Now, I was very, very fortunate because my sister, Renee, we had built our home side by side in Palmdale. So, of course, the first thing I did was run over to Renee. Renee, something happens. Jim's in a coma. I thought he was in a coma. So I went and I got the honey, and I'm squeezing the honey in his mouth, and we had a pit bull, and I called 911, and I'm trying to get the dog out, and Renee's, she's running up the stairs with Jim, and she's shaking Jim, and then the paramedics came, and Renee went next door to put her clothes on, and I was getting dressed to go to the hospital. But the firemen weren't doing anything. They were just like standing there. So the fireman said, "Oh, where's the lady that was with you?" And I'm thinking, oh, this is not good. So when Renee came in, she said, "Well, what's the matter? What are we waiting on?" And I said, "Well, they don't want to take the stretcher up the stairs. They're probably scared they're going to in the banister with the turn." I said, "You take that end and I'll take this end and we'll take the stretcher." And the fireman just kind of shook me. And he said, "Ma'am, your husband's been dead for hours. Your husband's dead." And okay. I said to Renee, "What do I do now?" She said, "Now you have to call Mum and Dad and you have to say the words. You have to say, 'Jim died.' You have to say those words." So I called my mum. It was about midnight. I called my mum and dad, and I told them I didn't want them to come up that night. They lived in Palm Springs. I needed them to come up the next day when it was daylight, because my dad had kind of got past the stage of driving at night time. Well, my mum and dad came up, and they never left. They literally never left, which was a big blessing. So Renee was next door, and my mum and dad were with me, and then through a course of time, Renee's husband died. So Renee would come to me, and she would, I'd make dinner, and I'd pack her lunch, and she'd go home and sleep in her house, and then the next day she'd come over to my house. So it was like, sell your house, throw your clothes over the wall, and we'll make this a nice little family. It'll be you and me and mum and dad, and this will be great. This is the way we started out. Because you see, I was very, very into family. So I still had my family, and I still had my faith, and life would be different. It would be good, but it would be different without having Jim and Ralph. And it was, like I say, it was different, but it was okay. I managed through the next few days. Jim's family came from Scotland, and the family came from up north, and I made a regular Thanksgiving feast on the Thursday, and we buried Jim on the Friday. Then it was just after that, it was time to move on. It was either sink or swim, but I had my family and I had my faith, and it was time to move on. Then there was my dad. My dad's name is Patrick, but I don't ever remember calling him anything ever other than Charlie. I always called my dad Charlie. My mother has no idea why. I just always called him Charlie. So Charlie decided he'd come to village church too. And I was a bit hard of hearing. But Charlie came to village church, and then after a while Charlie decided to join village church, and that made me really nervous. So I'd say to Dad, "Okay, Charlie, Pastor Wade will ask you this question, and this is your answer. And then he might ask you this, and this is your answer." So we had rehearsed it. We had rehearsed it over and over. And that Sunday on the way down, "Okay, Charlie, you got it? I got it. My dad, he called me Mickey. "I got it, Mickey. Don't panic. I got it." So here's Charlie standing in the baptismal, proud and strong, standing there, and Pastor Wade said, "Patrick, now this is Patrick. Patrick, tell the body, why are you interested in joining the body of Village Church?" And I was trembling, and my insides were like knots. And I thought, can everybody hear my heartbeat? And Charlie just stood proud and loud and clear and said, "I want to join the church because I like the donuts in the Sunday school class." But I still had my family, and I still had my faith. I had my family, and I had my faith. Well, then there was my boy Jamie. Jamie was the pride and joy of my life. He was everything to me. But he entered a life of alcohol and drugs and everything else that you can imagine that went along with it. And I made excuses for Jamie. I made it too easy for Jamie. Hindsight is a great thing, but it's just the way that it was. So after living this lifestyle for some time, Jamie was very fortunate to become a guest of the county. And he was a guest of the county for some time. I always say when Jamie went to college, when he went to the county college to learn all his lessons. Anyway, he was in the Honor Pritchett Ranch up in Castaic, and he did learn lessons there. And when he came home, he was a Jamie that I had raised, and I was happy that he had moved home and things were taking a turn for the better. And I had my family, and I had my faith, and I had Jamie, and it would be okay. It would be okay because I knew that this journey was not going to be easy, but I wasn't doing it alone. I had my family and I had my faith. Then Jamie met Anna, his wife-to-be, and they were married, and they have a lovely little girl, Ariana. Ariana is 7. I last saw her when she was 2. She lives in Lancaster. My daughter-in-law has not allowed me to be part of Ariana's life since Jamie died. We did go to court. I didn't want custody. I just wanted to be her nana. I just wanted to spend time with her and take her to the park and help her carve pumpkins and bake cupcakes. But right now, God is saying, you might still do that, but you have to wait. So I wait, and every month I send Ariana a card. I buy 2 cards. Buy the same card. I write the same message in each card, and I mail one to Ariana, and I keep one in the box in my house. And someday she may get the cards. I might be gone, I don't know, but at some point she will know that I never forgot a Christmas, a birthday, God help me, a St. Patrick's Day. I never forgot to send a card for any reason. But for right now, I have my family and I have my faith, and I'm so fortunate because I am allowed to be, I shouldn't even say allowed, that's the wrong word. I am celebrated to be part of my sister's grandchildren's lives. Renee and I have 3 grandchildren. We have Abby, Rebecca, and Jeff, and I treasure each one of them. And you don't have a favourite, but Abby's kind of the favourite because she's the oldest. But Becca's kind of the favourite because, well, she's the youngest. And Jeff is definitely a favourite because he's the only boy. Yeah. So whichever one I happen to be with happens to be the favourite at that time. I work at Village Christian Schools, where I've been the food service director for 34 years. And I have used that ability to help here at church. I've done the Wednesday night dinner programs. I did those for about 8 years. And I'm very blessed to be part of the team that helps feed our less fortunate here at Village Church. And that chapter in my life is going to end fairly soon. I'm going to retire, and the possibilities are endless. I look forward to doing stuff with World Impact, and I hope to work at the Dream Centre, volunteer at the Dream Centre. And I don't know what doors God's going to open, but whatever doors He opens, I certainly plan to walk through and embrace it. And when I come home, I'll come home to my sister, where we will plan our trips and go to the Mayflower and play canasta. And we will do things together. We will join the gym, we will join. Look at my sister, she's all sniveling because she has to join the gym. We are going to join the gym July 5th, because July 4th is a holiday, and July 3rd I will officially be retired. So that will be something else we'll do. And we're going to find things like where the Metrolink takes you, and where you buy the little senior citizen thing and you get in for a quarter. And Sandra's going to teach us all about the cheap movies and all of that stuff. So that's going to be good. Anyway, this is a journey. It's a journey of hope. It's a journey of faith. It's not a sorrowful journey. And I think it's really important that I give you one more little component of Ariana. I don't understand everything God does and why He does it and when He does it. I may never understand that. I don't understand why I can't be Ariana's nana. I don't understand that. I don't see how God is being glorified by me not being allowed to be her nana. But I know there's a reason. I just don't know what the reason is yet. But I accept the reason. And I know that part of it is my fault, and I take blame for that, because it was so important to me when I would pray. I would pray, God, I want to see her every other Sunday. I want her Christmas Eve. I want her, every other Christmas Day. This is what I want. I want the halfway drop-off point to be Sand Canyon. I never prayed, God, I want your will in my life to be part of Ariana's life. I just felt like it was a given. I felt like I shouldn't have to pray to ask to be Ariana's nana, because I felt like I was Ariana's nana. But so therefore part of it is my fault, and ultimately God laid down the plan and the time frame, and the time frame is wait. And I can wait, and I do wait. And I wait knowing that that day will come. It may not come in my lifetime, but I know that it will come. I'm very blessed to have been Jamie's mum. It was only for a short time, but he was worth every tear, and he was worth every minute of my life. And as I laid across his hospital bed, and his heart beat slower and slower until it finally stopped, I prayed out loud, God, please, please take me to, I don't want to live. I just don't want to deal with this anymore. Take my hand, walk me over the bridge to glory where Jim's waiting for both of us, because that's what I want. I want peace. I want grace. I just want this life to be over. And God said, but you have your family, and I am your faith. And he is my faith. And I totally, totally believe that with my heart and soul. Absolutely believe that. So, my soul, wait in silence for God only, for my hope is from him. He only is my rock and my salvation, my stronghold. I shall not be shaken. On God my Saviour and my glory rest, the rock of my strength, my refuge is in God. Trust in him at all times, O people. Pour out your heart before him. God is a refuge for us. God is a refuge for us all. Thank you very, very much.
Oh, you're not done.
I'm not done.
You want me to sing another song?
No.